Okay, welcome to our Erev Shabbat Perashat class. Perashat Haazinu. Perashat Haazinu is what they would call a lame duck. Basically, it landed between two holidays. Sometimes it's Aseret Yemei Teshuvah. This year it's between Yom Kippurim and Sukkot. It's sort of a lull. It's sort of a break in the action, and yet it's a powerful parasha, the song for the ages. I want to focus on a line, a single pasuk or even part of a pasuk at the end of the parasha. This pasuk is essentially what I would call the last bit of advice that Moshe Rabbeinu ever offers us, Am Yisrael, or anyone for that matter. Now I know he's still alive, and we still have Parashat Zot HaBeracha to follow, but that parasha, with its blessings and mainly predictions for the tribes, is very formal, and it has in it a lot of prophecy for the future. But this ending in Perashat Haazinu is very personal. It's Moshe Rabbeinu's personal advice that he offers Am Yisrael. And again, it's the end of his life, the final day of his life. And this is the last knowledge and insight and loving guidance that he has to give us. And this is the way the parasha ends. Right before Hashem tells him to go up to the mountain, and that is where you're going to end your life. And after the parasha, or the entire song of Haazinu, where he speaks to the nation and to Yeshua ben Nun, and it says he finishes talking, and then it says in Pasuk Mem Vav Perek Lamed Bet, chapter 32, verse 46. Vayomer Alehem, Simu lebabchem lechor hadevarim asher ani anochi ma'id bachem hayom. Pay attention to everything that I testify to you today. It's all critical. And the next pasuk he says as follows: Ki lo dabar rek hu mikem, ki hu hayechem. Because this literally is not something rek, empty, from you, rather it is your lives. And he finishes the pasuk by saying, and with this you will lengthen your days on the land that you are passing over to inherit and to take over. So what is that advice all about? Lo davar rek hu mikem. Besides the fact that it's somewhat enigmatic, it's vague, it's general, it's also a little bothersome to use the terminology of rek, empty. After all of Moshe Rabbeinu's 40 years of instruction, the Torah Kedoshah from Har Sinai, all the Mizvot, all the guidance, all the depth, all the experiences, could we have possibly thought that the Torah is something empty? Why does he have to leave us with? Why was there a concern on behalf of Moshe Rabbeinu that anyone in this nation could possibly have a takeaway after his life is over, that we're experiencing or we own something empty in the Torah? It's puzzling. So there are not a lack of theories as to what Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to convey to the nation, and I believe that they are, not mutually exclusive. I think they can coexist, and I believe that within this one sentence of Moshe Rabbeinu, there was incredible depth, and there were numerous lessons that he was trying to convey to us and to implant in our minds for future generations, for what we call sedar ladarech, a snack for the road, something that we'll need to take with us for generations to come. So I'm going to give you 3 theories and then a little addition from yours truly. The Emek Davar, written by the Nesib, has a take on this. He tells us, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah is lo davar reh. It's not something empty, rather it's our lives. And according to the Nesib and the Emek Davar, Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to implant in the minds of the people that are going to confront different religions that offer different texts in the future. And here they are. We have Islam with the Quran, and of course we have the Christianity with their Bible, which includes the Old, but the New Testament, which is all false, obviously. And there's been a shortage, unfortunately, and a large share of Jews over the course of years and centuries that have been drawn in by that. And it could be intoxicating, and depending on the context of your background and where you are and who is trying to cajole and convince you. And Moshe Rabbeinu wants to tell us something about the contrast between what they have and what we have. And to that, Moshe Rabbeinu basically is alluding and implying to the fact that what they have is empty. It's there. It's a text. It could be studied, could be analyzed like any other text of history or novel, etc. But that's where it ends. It's a very surface level understanding. Our Torah Kedosha is a Torah Shebechtav and a Torah Sheba'al Peh, an oral tradition also given in Har Sinai. That is an ocean of information, that is an endless amount of teaching and facts and halachot and mizvot. We have centuries of commentaries from the Gemara and Midrashim, the Rishonim and the Aharonim on our Torah. The depth of our Torah about B'chtav and B'al Peh is unreachable. It's unlimited. It's never ending. And those traditions are something that Moshe Rabbeinu wants to make us appreciate at this point in his life and really point us in a direction for millennia. Don't be fooled. What they have is rek. What you have is lo davar rek. It is far from empty. And if you don't understand it, well, then dive back in and you will understand it. Consult someone and study and never end. Hafoch ba b'hafoch ba, as it says at the end of Pirkei Avot. Keep turning over and you'll find it new. You'll be enlightened eventually. And Moshe Rabbeinu therefore says that it's hayechem. It's your entire life if you get to know it. That's the Emek Davar. There's a perush that I found in the book called Sefer HaIkarim, which is a great philosophical work ran in the 16th century. And in that Sefer, it speaks about this pasuk as addressing what is a philosophical conundrum for us, which is throughout the ages a question that we all have, which is God's knowledge versus free will. And at this point in Moshe Rabbeinu's life, having just given us what's part of the Beri, the covenant, the Parashiot of Kitabo, Nisabim, and Vayelech, which in them have so many difficult predictions and prophecies about all the tragedies which will befall Am Yisrael and the difficult existence which we will experience over the years. And we really heard the worst, most harsh, difficult predictions that we can possibly think of. And at that point, the Am Yisrael may very well just throw their hands up and say, what's the point? It's been prophesied, it's been predicted, and it is recorded in the text as an eventuality. So let's just throw our hands up. And if it has to happen, it has to happen. But what's the point in even moving forward, in committing, in trying, in building? What's the point? And to that, Rabbi Albo, who's the author of Sefer HaIkarim, says, Moshe Rabbeinu tells us, Lo davar mikem, ki hu hayechem. Free choice is still at play. You will never lose it. It still works. And no matter what is written in terms of the prophecies and predictions in the Torah, you still have the ability to impact, to affect. You can change what it says in the Torah with your own actions. And it's not really changing it because the Torah clearly states that if you do listen, then this does not have to happen. The harshness of history does not have to roll out in that manner. And therefore, he says, it is not absolutely not something that's empty. And here empty would be ineffective. It's not ineffective. Your observance and commitment to Torah and Mitzvot is very effective. Hu hayechem, meaning you have it in your power, in your life, with your free will, with your self-determination, you can make it happen and be the determiner of your own fate. It's in your hands. Your destiny is in your hands. And yet another explanation of this pasuk, the Abad Banel. Abad Banel basically says that Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to contrast, but really combine this difference between reward that we see in this world, that we see mainly on a national basis, and what we might call non-physical reward. In other words, reward that we won't see in this lifetime, but we trust Hashem that we'll get it after this lifetime. And we tend to think when you don't see something good happen that's promised to you, that it's not coming. And we haven't seen all the great times. And actually, we did to a great extent way back in the days of David and Shlomo HaMelech. It didn't last long, and that was our fault. But the real predictions, and also the prophets as well, of the great future full redemption, messianic times, it's only a dream. And it seems like that reward is something that's light, it's without substance, it's empty. And the Baal Baril explains the Moshe Rabbeinu was telling us, Lo davar re'ech mikem. This is not something that is esoteric and separate. It's empty. It's separate from our current existence. We can't relate to it. We relate to physical reward. No. Hu hayechem. It's just as much part of your life, your actually substantive life, your tangible life, as the other reward. And the future reward after this world, which is reward to our nishamot, which again is intangible and difficult for us to relate to, is just as, and you can say much more powerful and present, and it's just as realistic as the reward that you see. It's not there. It's not floating in the air. It's not esoteric and intangible. It's hayechem, it's your life. The life of your neshama and your body, it's all one. Remember that, Moshe tells the Am Yisrael. Don't give up and don't be led astray. What I would like to suggest is something that is way simpler than the great Hachamim that I just presented to you, but I think necessary, and that is as follows. A very interesting question that sometimes used to be presented at least to people, congregations, and communities, as challenging someone to ask them, "Are you an American Jew, or are you a Jewish American? Right? What do you prioritize? What's your bedrock?" But these days they ask more shallow questions. How religious are you? Right? Oh, he's a little bit. He's somewhat. He's in the middle, somewhat religious. Oh, he's extremely religious. People treat the Torah, religion, as if it's some kind of jar or a bucket that you fill it up, right? A little bit, halfway, a lot. And that's how we frame people. We're very religious. Moshe Rabbeinu comes to tell us, not so. It's not the way it works. And I'll tell you how. Yesterday we read in Sefer Yonah that while the boat was rocking and they've almost been capsized by the fierce storm around them, and the sailors, the lot landed on Yonah, the prophet, and the sailor said, "It must be your fault. Where do you come? What's your work? What do you do? Where do you come from? What's your ethnic background?" And Yonah, really, with all the questions that they presented to him, should have said, "Well, I'm a professional prophet. I'm in the field of education, public relations." Instead, he said, "Abri Anochi. Ve'et Adonai Elohei Hashamayim Ani Yareh." I'm sorry. Ani Yareh Asher Asa Hayam et Hayabasha. Right? I'm a Hebrew, and I fear the creator of the world. I ask you what you do. That's what I do. That's what I do. Oh, we're a doctor, we're lawyers, we're business people for a living. But that's a means to an end. That's a matter of survival. What we do is our identity as servants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The default of observance of Judaism is not an empty bucket that we need to fill. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, Lo davar rek hu mikem. It's not an empty jar, and then you fill it, and that's how religious you are. You start off as a Jew with neshama and a rich heritage and an unbelievable tradition, and it encompasses your entire life. It's not something that you do on the side. It is your life, says Moshe Rabbeinu. The default of Judaism and observance is your entire life. And you don't have a choice whether how much to fill the jar. It's not empty. It's everything, says Moshe. And don't ever forget that. And with that short, seemingly mysterious and ambiguous pasuk, but as we studied it, powerful message, Moshe Rabbeinu, here endeth the lesson, as they say, ends all his great lessons and guidance to Am Yisrael. His incredible 40-year run as the rabbi and leader of our holy nation. Shabbat Shalom.